Hey, welcome back to the Big Rancho. Thank you for joining me. Now, here's a story that I didn't want to put in the weekly rundown that I gave you yesterday. I didn't want to have the video automatically demonetized, which YouTube tried to demonetize it in the first place. And then I also just didn't think it needed to be stuck in a hodgepodge of stories. This last week, here in Texas, the case of 3-year-old Sherin Mathews came to a close. If you remember Sherin Mathews, she was the little 3-year-old girl who had been left alone all night, and then her father came home and killed her some way, somehow, and then stuffed her body in a culvert in a trash bag. In the trial, he said he wanted to do something nice for his daughter after he killed her, so he put her in a blue trash bag and threw her away, just like you would some refuse. But he was sentenced to life in prison by a jury. He'll be eligible for parole in 30 years. I can't believe that a father would do this. I will never understand how a parent could kill their own child. Adopted, biological, it doesn't matter. But the man showed time and again during the trial he had no remorse. He shed tears when he talked about wasting the time of the Richardson Police Department. But he did not shed a tear for Sherin when he discussed what happened with Sherin that night. He didn't shed a tear. They played text messages during the trial where he and his wife were talking back and forth about the child having to be kept at the hospital overnight or whatever. And his biggest thing was, he didn't understand why the child had so many defects. That doesn't sound like something you call your child, or a word you use to describe your child. Defect. But he was found guilty. Well, he copped to the lesser charge, so he's automatically going to be guilty. But instead of life with parole or the death penalty, or life without parole or the death penalty, he got simply life with parole. At least he serves time for what he did. Now, to everybody that was involved in making sure this little girl got justice, I want to thank each and every one of you. The Richardson Police Department, all law enforcement, all those people out there that did videos, and those people that were out there pushing the story into the media, making sure that little Sherin didn't leave the headlines. We didn't let this little girl's death go unnoticed. And I want to thank all those people that were actually out there on the front lines doing that. To all of you, thank you. Thank you for bringing this little girl justice. I made a number of videos on the topic here at the Big Rancho, and I don't know why I was so drawn to the case. I didn't know anybody involved. But I do know that I followed the case from the day she was reported missing. The first day that the news media broke the story that she was missing. Hoping she had just wandered off. Hoping that the father was telling the truth. But knowing deep down that he was lying from the beginning, the story made no sense. But there's nothing we could do to Wesley Matthews or to his wife, Sherin Mathews, to bring back Sherin. But all we can do is make sure that it doesn't happen again. CPS dropped the ball on this. They didn't catch it in time. Now, there's a lot of issues with Texas CPS. They've taken children from people that didn't deserve to have their children taken from them. Yet in other cases like this, the child's allowed to stay even through neglect and abuse. But Wesley Matthews, life in prison. And that's exactly what he deserves out of what he could have been given. He was given the maximum of what he could be given for the plea deal he got. So thank the Lord for that. Now for Cindy Matthews, I don't know if this is actually over at the moment. Now they dropped charges against her for the child endangerment and stuff like that, but you never know what information could come to light later. So I implore anybody that knows anything about the ongoings inside that home, contact authorities if you know something. As well, remember the little girl was left alone. She was left alone by herself for hours on end while Cindy Matthews and Wesley Matthews took their biological child out to eat. I'm assuming because Wesley Matthews was ashamed to have a child with some kind of medical issue. But there's a law out there being proposed called Sharons Law. It's being proposed in Texas, and I think it should be something maybe we should look at nationwide. But it's supposed to prevent children from being kept at home by themselves under a certain age. I forget exactly what the number is they're putting on it in the bill. But a 3-year-old has no business being left home alone. A 3-year-old cannot take care of themselves. And so we need to pass Sharons Law. Call your representatives here in the state of Texas if you're in Texas. If your state doesn't have a law on the books saying that a child under 5 years old, for example, cannot be left at home alone, maybe you should call your representatives in your state too. To the family members of little Sherin, those of you that actually loved her, I'm still sorry for your loss. This case haunts me to this very day. But I am glad that it can finally, that we can finally put it to rest. Unfortunately, it still doesn't feel like it's really accomplished anything. Why do I say that? Because the little child's still gone. And there's absolutely no reason for it. There's no reason for this little child to have met the fate that she did. But thanks to the Richardson Police Department and other law enforcement that were involved, they got to the bottom of it. And they found out what they think happened. And he admitted to it. And his lawyer had the nerve to call it cruel and unusual punishment. He's full of crap. Anyhow, this has been the Big Rancho. I've been your host, Jacob Keck. I'll see you down the road.